Today is the feast of Mary Magdalene, one of my very favorite saints. Mary Magdalene is the only woman who appears in all the 4 Gospels at the empty tomb. In the Gospel of Mark, she goes along with 2 other women to roll the stone back to anoint the body of Jesus. In the Gospel of Matthew, she goes with another woman. In the Gospel of Luke, she goes with a few other women. But in the Gospel of John, she is the only woman mentioned who goes to the tomb early in the morning on the first day of the week, which is Sunday. Mary sees that the stone has been rolled back, makes up her mind about what may have happened, and runs to tell Peter and the beloved disciple that they have taken the Lord out of the tomb. She is presuming, she is assuming without even having the facts. Peter and the beloved disciple come running to the tomb. Peter goes into the tomb, followed by the beloved disciple, and they find that the body of Jesus is not there, but the cloths which were used to wrap the body of Jesus are still in the tomb. This is an indication to them that Jesus has left death behind. By leaving the cloths behind, they presume that Jesus has left death behind, and they presume that he has risen from the dead. Yet, they are not aware of what the resurrection means. And so, they go back home. Mary, however, is faithful. Mary, however, is persevering. Mary, however, is persistent and stays outside the tomb. However, Mary stands outside the tomb weeping. John is the only one who tells us about the tears of Mary and about the fact that she wept. And even as she wept, she stoops to look into the tomb, and when she looks in, she finds 2 angels dressed in white, sitting where the feet and the head of Jesus lay. The angels have no authority in the Gospel of John to make any pronouncement about the resurrection or the ascension. The angels in the Gospel of John only ask Mary a question. And the question that they ask Mary is, "Woman, why are you weeping?" On the surface level, the question might seem like a question, but at a deeper level, it is a rhetorical question, which means the angels are saying to Mary, there is no cause to weep. There is no reason to weep. Mary, you ought not to weep. However, the tears of Mary prevent not only her seeing, the tears of Mary prevent her hearing, and the tears of Mary prevent her experiencing. Even as the angels finish their question, Mary responds to them. And her response is that they have taken the Lord out of the tomb. Mary doesn't specify who they is, but she simply imagines that the body of Jesus has been stolen. And she says, "We do not know where they have laid him." And even as she responds to the angel's question, Jesus stands by her side. However, the tears of Mary, the weeping of Mary, the self-pity of Mary prevents her from hearing and seeing Jesus. Her eyes are kept from recognizing Jesus. And Jesus repeats the question of the angels and adds another. He says to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Tina zeteis." Tina zeteis in English means, whom are you looking for? In the Gospel of John, this or a similar question is asked 3 times. The first time it is asked is in chapter 1, verse 38. When the 2 disciples of John go behind Jesus, Jesus realizes that they are coming behind him and turns and asks them, "Ti zeteite," what are you looking for? On the surface level, it will seem like a very courteous question. It will seem like a question for information. But on the deeper level, it means, what is your plan in life? What do you want from life? Why do you continue to live the way you do? That is the meaning of ti zeteite. What do you seek? The second time in chapter 18, verse 4, when Judas and the arresting party come to arrest Jesus, Jesus asks them a similar question, "Tina zeteis," whom are you looking for? Unfortunately, they are not looking for the Lord, but the Jesus of Nazareth. When Jesus responds, "Ego eimi," I am, they draw back and fall to the ground. The reason is, the proper posture before God is always prostration. The proper posture before God is always to fall to the ground. The third time this question is asked is to Mary Magdalene when Jesus asks her, "Tina zeteis." He repeats the question of the angels, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And the first question that the angels ask, "Whom do you seek?" Now Mary wants the dead Lord. She does not want the risen Jesus. So Mary thinks that Jesus is the gardener. Now, why did Mary think that Jesus was the gardener? Why did she not think that he was a watchman? Why did she not think he was a stranger? Why did she not think he was anyone else? The reason is because Mary's heart was saying that only a gardener could fulfill her wishes. Only a gardener could fulfill what she wanted. Only a gardener could satisfy her need at this time. And though she looks at Jesus, the tears prevent her from seeing correctly, and she sees Jesus as a gardener, as one who could fulfill what she wanted. And what did she desire? She desired the dead Jesus. She desired the Jesus who was laid in the tomb. And so she says to Jesus, whom she thinks is the gardener, "Sir, if you have taken him away, tell me, and I will go and get him." But what would Mary do, does she imagine, with the dead body of Jesus? Would she sit with the dead body? If yes, then for how long? How long could she sustain that vigil over a dead body? So Mary is talking from emotion. Mary is not talking from reason. And the emotion, unfortunately, is not the emotion of love. It is the emotion of craving, the emotion of desire, the emotion of selfishness, and the emotion of self-pity. Jesus has asked her 2 questions. And Mary has not recognized him, nor has she recognized his voice. And then Jesus knows that the only way he can get Mary to come back to her senses, the only way he can get Mary to start thinking again and start feeling again correctly, is he calls her name. Jesus says to her, "Mary." And the moment she hears her name, she becomes alive. The moment she hears her name, she realizes that now she is the center of attraction as she wanted to be. The moment she hears her name, she becomes aware of everything around her. And at that moment, she recognizes Jesus. There are some who say that the reason why Mary recognized Jesus is because only he called her in that manner, and that is not the way to interpret this text. Because John does not tell us anything about the inflection in the voice of Jesus. John does not tell us anything about how Jesus called her name. John doesn't say, for example, and Jesus called her endearingly Mary. If he did that, then one could understand that the reason why Mary recognizes him is because he called her in that way, in that unique way, in that special way. But John says nothing of this sort. John very clearly wants us to know that it was on hearing her name that she becomes alive. It was when she heard her name that she became aware. It was on hearing her name that she was able to come out of her stupor, of her emotion, of her self-pity, and of her selfishness. And even then, Mary has not come out fully, because she runs to the Lord and holds him and will not let him go. Even though the text does not say it, Mary seems to be telling the Lord, I have got you now, you are mine and mine alone, and I'm not going to let you go. I cannot share you with anyone, you are my possession. And the Lord has to gently chide Mary. The Lord has to tell her to let him go. And the word that Jesus uses is hapto, which means, Mary, do not hold on to me. Jesus doesn't tell Mary not to touch him. He says, Mary, do not hold on to me. You have to let me go. You have to get used to my presence in a new way. When I was with you historically, I was present as a human person. But now you have to let me go, and you have to get used to seeing me in your heart. You have to get used to seeing me in your mind. You have to get used to knowing that no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I will accompany you and I will be with you, because I am the risen Lord. And the Lord, because he is the Lord, and the Lord, because he knows that Mary genuinely and truly loves him, makes Mary an apostle of the ascension. The Lord does not make Mary an apostle of the resurrection, because the resurrection is taken for granted in the Gospel of John. He tells Mary to go and become a missionary on his behalf to his disciples by telling them that he is ascending, that he is going back to where he has come from, that he has completed his work on earth and now has to return to the Father. And to Mary's credit, she lets go of her self-pity. She lets go of her selfishness. She lets go of her emotions and becomes that rational, that reasonable, that logical disciple and apostle when she goes as a missionary and communicates the message of the ascension to the disciples of Jesus. What is the message of this text for us today? There are times in our lives when we are faced with a calamity. There are times in our lives when we are faced with a loss. When a member of our family gets cancer. When a member of our family dies young. When a spouse is called to God before his or her time. When children die in childhood, when youth die in accidents, then the world of the family is shattered. And the question is, why me? Why my child? Why my husband? Why my parent? At those times, the Lord comes to us like he came to Mary Magdalene, and he asks us, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for? If we truly believe in the resurrection, we have to say we are looking for our risen brother, our risen son, our risen daughter, our risen parent, the risen member of the family. But if we do not believe in the resurrection, then like Mary, we will look for the dead relative. And if we look for the dead relative, the danger is we will not be able to hear the questions that Jesus is asking us. If we look for the dead relative, we won't be able to hear what Jesus is saying to us, and we will be caught up in our own selfishness, in our own self-centeredness, in our own emotion. If we really look for the risen relative, if we look for hope, if we look for the positive, then it is possible that we will know that the question Jesus asks us is actually a rhetorical question, where he is telling us not to be afraid, telling us not to weep. He is telling us not to give in to depression, not to give in to the negatives, but to continue to have hope. The story ends beautifully with Mary becoming an apostle of the ascension of Jesus. Let us pray on this feast of this beautiful missionary Saint Mary Magdalene, that each one of us will let go, like she did, of our self-pity, of our selfishness, of our tears, which prevent us from seeing and hearing and experiencing, and know that our Lord is alive, and that our God is a God of hope, our God is a God of peace, our God is a God of life.